This is the TSG Multimedia podcast for June of 2020. We're sponsored this month by Soundtraxx and the TSG Train Crew on Patreon. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, John Abaticola, and I'm still sheltering in place here at the TSG Multimedia Intergalactic Headquarters. I have a lot to tell you this month, so grab a drink and let's get right to it. Just like last month, I've been in video conference after video conference. It's pretty amazing how people have adapted to what's going on by using technology. I suspect most of us are seeing each other a lot more than we were before the problem with the virus came along. At least I know I am. One cool thing I was able to get out of the house for, though, was when the 1111 came up the coastline with a manager's special passenger train. Now here's the thing, we don't get a whole lot of anything on the coastline, unless you count Caltrain and a couple of UP locals now and again. So when I heard about a special unit that was coming through, I thought that would be worth shooting. It was great to be out trackside again for a change. The weather was perfect, and it was a cool catch. I mean, look, it was the only catch I had last month, so what can you say, right? So anyway, because of the virus, the last of the events that I had plans to attend this year, which was at the Cumbres and Toltec in August, has now been canceled. That means that every single trip I had planned for 2020, up to date, has been called off. So in a way, it's kind of a relief, but at the same time, these trips and events are necessary to create the content that I share with you on the channel here. So I'll be thinking a lot about what kind of programs I can put together given the current challenges over the next month or so. I'm very fortunate because last year's events and trips provided us with enough material to get halfway through this year. That's pretty astounding when you think about it. 2019 was a real barn burner, as they say, and what a good time to be busy. No one could have known what was going to happen this year, and I know I sure didn't, but we were out there doing everything we could do, every chance we had, and I'm really glad that we did. Another silver lining about having to cancel trips this year is that such trips are pretty expensive to take. That means I'm saving a lot of money on travel this year. And that might mean it can be used for something else that I've wanted to do. So anyway, I hosted a video conference for the TSG Train Crew on May 16th. About 15 or 20 of us got together in a private video conference with two prototype railroaders, one active and one retired, to learn about their experiences with actual real railroading. We talked about how to incorporate prototypical operations into model railroading and some of the sort of everyday things that modelers tend to exclude in their operations. It was quite a cool event, and I want to take a second now to thank Dave and Kevin for being our guest experts. This virtual hangout may end up on the channel sometime later this year. I haven't decided yet when, but I wanted to mention it because this kind of private event is something that I'm looking at doing every so often for TSG Train Crew members, and they won't all be recorded for the channel. In case you're new here, TSG Train Crew members are what I call our Patreon supporters. Train Crew members get behind-the-scenes access and branded merchandise, and they're also invited to private meetings like the one I just mentioned. So if that sounds like something that you'd enjoy, check it out when you have a minute. This month, we're going to have Jack Burgess as a guest expert to talk about things like modeling, history, and other things that he's well versed in. If you join the crew before that date, you can get in on that meeting when it happens. You can find out more by going to patreon.com/TSG Multimedia, and you'll find out what the date is when you sign up. So I talked to George Bogatuk last weekend for the next installment of the Soundtraxx Soundbyte. So let's go to that now. All right, so I've got George dialed up on Skype now. Hey, George, how's it going? Welcome back. What do you got for us this month?
Well, John, it's always good to be with you here. Well, this month we want to focus on our YouTube channel. This is a video channel that we've been working on weekly videos for about 2.5 years now. So there's a lot of good content and a lot of good information on how to use our award-winning Tsunami 2.
Very cool. What kind of videos do you have on there?
So we've got some short 3 to 5 minute videos that kind of explain one feature of the decoder and how it works. So that way you can figure out how that decoder is designed to work, so that way you can take that feature and implement it in your railroad the best way you can.
Cool. So are they all 3 to 5 minutes, or do you have anything else going on there?
Well, we have, most of them are about 3 to 5 minutes. There are a couple that kind of extend about 10 to 15 minutes. Some of them we've done an installation video. We actually did an operation video a few weeks ago where we take some trains and actually build them up here on my layout. But one of the biggest ones I want to direct your viewers to is our webinar series.
Oh, cool.
Now, our webinars are archived, and they're posted on YouTube for you to be able to watch at your free time. But these are taken from our classes of our dealer training and Soundtraxx Academy classes that we've offered in Durango, where we invite everybody to come out and learn directly from the pros. And so these classes cover everything from just general decoder overview, what are some of the highlights, but we also get into some of the specific features that aren't related necessarily to Soundtraxx, such as what is DCC, where we pull the curtain back and we show the little green man behind the curtain and what's actually happening on the rails. We talk about how to use different DCC systems. So we use 3 of the major DCC systems, and we do the same thing with all 3, and we show you the button pushes and how to do it, because we want to make sure you're getting the most out of your trains, and we don't want you to be afraid of how to use those different systems. But we've also even added in soldering classes and all kinds of cool things, including a 45-minute video on just consisting, how to run multiple locomotives together on a single train. So we've been packing a lot of good information into there. So we do ask the greatest viewers in YouTube to like, subscribe, and be sure to click that notification bell on the Soundtraxx YouTube channel, so that way you get notified every week when we post new content. Feel free to comment, and if you have any ideas for new content where you have a particular feature you're not sure about, feel free to reach out to me, George B. at Soundtraxx.com, and we'll put it in the docket and see if we can't get a video showing that exact feature.
That's really cool. So you're actually showing more than just, here's what you can do with Soundtraxx decoders. That really speaks to me. I kind of do that here on the channel. I try to show people as much of everything as possible, that I can. So that really speaks to me. So that sounds like a good idea. So if you have a chance, go over and like and subscribe over at the Soundtraxx YouTube channel as well. I think that they'll appreciate that, and I think that the viewers will also get some good information that way. So I like that.
Absolutely.
Hey, I have a favor to ask from you. I've been talking to some people, and they were really happy and really excited about the TSG 10 code that we had last month for the discount on the Soundtraxx website. And they asked me if I could ask for more because, times are tough.
Yeah.
People need a little bit more help. So do you think we can do a little bit more for them, or maybe?
Let's see. You know what? For the greatest viewers on YouTube, why not?
Okay.
So let's do, starting June 1st through the month of June, we're going to do TSG 15 is your promo code / coupon code to type in during checkout. And the code TSG 15 will get you 15% off of all of your purchases at Soundtraxx.com.
Cool. I thought he said 50 for a second. I was about ready to go.
I think I'd have a few retailers after me if we offered that.
Right. All right. Hey, thanks for coming on again this month. Appreciate it. Go over to the Soundtraxx YouTube channel and subscribe now. Sounds like some great stuff. Thanks, George. We'll see you next time.
Hey, thanks, John. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you. All right. Cool stuff. Thanks, George. And like George said, you can get a discount if you order your decoders from Soundtraxx directly. Just use the code TSG15 at checkout. I subscribed to their YouTube channel a few months ago, and I have to say they really do cover more than just Soundtraxx stuff. It's a really good resource if you want to learn things about the hobby. So thanks again for sponsoring my work, and also for taking care of the best viewers on YouTube, Soundtraxx. We all appreciate it. Over the past few months, there have been a couple really big announcements about steam locomotives moving to new places and things like that. One of those was the announcement of the former Southern Pacific number 1744 being acquired by the Pacific Locomotive Association earlier this year. I had a chance to talk to my friend Alan Siegwarth from the Niles Canyon Railway about this acquisition. It's kind of a brief conversation, but let's go to that now. Okay, so I have Alan dialed up on my FaceTime app, and let's go to him now. So Alan, what's going on with the PLA and this new old locomotive that you guys are getting?
Well, good morning there, John. We're pretty proud to announce that we've managed to acquire Southern Pacific number 1744. This has been something that we've been working on for, over 6 months. And it's a mogul. It's a Baldwin 1901 built 260, built originally for Southern Pacific, and it spent most of its life here in the Bay Area, in the Central Valley. So it's a California native locomotive, and PLA is excited to get it and work on returning it to service on the Niles Canyon Railway, which of course is a Southern Pacific line, which it would have ran on during its normal service life.
Yeah, that's really great, because the PLA's mission in large part is preserving Southern Pacific history. So it fits right in, doesn't it?
Yeah, it fits in. I mean, we have a huge, PLA was started to preserve steam engines, and we got a lot of different type of steam engines, most of them logging locomotives. But over the years, we've acquired a lot of Southern Pacific Railroad equipment, passenger cars, freight cars, diesels, and this will add another Southern Pacific locomotive to our collection that we could use in regular operations. So it's going to be something exciting to see it run in the canyon someday.
Yeah, that's really great. So were you instrumental in getting it to the PLA, or how did that happen?
Well, the PLA's been looking for quite a while. This board has told the steam department, you guys need to find another larger locomotive that we can use in service. So Jeff Schwab and Charlie Franz and I have been looking for many years off and on at possibilities of locomotives, and this one popped up with Iowa Pacific financial problems, being sold in a auction, I guess, for money. And truthfully, it's an engine we looked at probably 15, almost 20 years ago when it was in Texas. And so we're just glad that we got the opportunity to get it.
Sounds really exciting. I think we should maybe get Jeff and Charlie together and maybe do a more in-depth informational talk on this for next month's program.
Yeah, we could do that. We could get all three of us, and we could give you a real lowdown on the locomotive and where we're going to go and some of the history of it.
Okay. Hey, that sounds like a really good plan. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me today, and I guess we'll see you next month.
Sounds good. Thanks, John, for having me on.
Thank you. As Alan mentioned, the 1744 is a 260 with a tender, and it's a great fit for the operations at the Niles Canyon Railway. It needs some work, but it's in capable hands there, and we should be seeing it in action before too long. We're going to find out more about that next month. If you don't feel like waiting until next month to find out more, go over to the Niles Canyon Railway's website, ncry.org, and find out more today. If you do, please consider donating to the cause while you're there. And they're always looking for volunteers too. Another more recent event was the move of the Santa Cruz Portland Cement No. 2, also known as the Chiggen, moving from Washington south to the Placerville and Sacramento Valley Railroad's yard in Folsom, California. That's near Sacramento. This move has been planned for quite a while now, and even though no one was talking about which steam engine they were looking to have on the line there, I heard about these rumors of steam well over a year ago. You might remember I've taken a few trips out to the PSVRR over the past few years, and those were for a project I have in the works about that railroad. And this steam engine is the missing piece of that project. When I heard about their intention to bring steam to the line over a year ago when I was there last, I decided at that time to wait for that steam to arrive before completing the project. Now the virus is delaying it a little bit more, but at least all the questions have been answered, and now it's just a matter of time before we can get back out to Folsom and finish recording the footage needed to wrap that project up. I had a chance to talk to Stathi Pappas, the owner of the Chiggen, briefly earlier this week. I met Stathi when he brought the Chiggen to the Bay Area in 2014, and he even appears in TSG's video about Steamfest 3 in Niles Canyon from that same year. So let's go to that conversation now. Okay, so I have Stathi up on the line here. And Stathi, how you doing? It's great to see you. It's been a long time.
Yeah, doing great. Good to see you again as well. And thanks for the interest in the locomotive and the project. So, yeah.
Yeah, so the reason we're talking here today, I've already informed the audience about that, is the fact that the Chiggen made a trip from Washington down to Folsom recently. And I wanted to have you talk a little bit about that since you own the Chiggen. Thought it would be a neat thing to have you talk about what the move was like and kind of what's going on there, and hopefully maybe next month we'll have Jim or someone from the PSVRR talk about it too, and we'll get a little dialogue going on. So,
yeah, sounds good. Well, the move, it was like any move like this. You're always having to work a lot of logistics, and it takes several weeks beforehand to get everything in place. And it was very much a partnership between the Folsom group and myself to get all these things worked out. It actually worked out very well. And the wonderful thing about this locomotive and all the people around it, both from the group in Folsom and Team Chiggen as it existed before, now we're all kind of one entity, right? But in terms of the outpouring of support and the fellowship and camaraderie, not only was it a move of a locomotive, but it was an opportunity to be together again and to see everybody, faces that, I'm out here in Colorado and New Mexico. So it's been a while since I've been able to see some of these people. It really was very much a rewarding experience to see everybody again. And everything worked amazingly well. Everybody was very supportive of making sure that everything happened safely and effectively. And I can't say enough good things about it. It was very enjoyable to have been able to be part of it again. And that's sort of the power of this locomotive, is the people that are around it more than anything.
Right. And I remember it was a similar story when we talked when it came down to Niles in 2014, the last time I saw you face to face.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, what's wonderful about the engine is it's small enough to be relatively easily transportable, large enough to do real work. And so it can go and be an ambassador at different places. And the team of practitioners that sort of coalesce around it and the friendships that are generated from that, the Steam Fest that Niles Canyon did in 2014 was just a magical event, and it was great to have been part of it. And so here we are now, the locomotive's in Folsom, and it gets to be part of more magic and sort of be that nucleus around which a whole nother steam program in this country sort of coalesces around. And that's a real honor if you think about it. I mean, steam in general, it's been a technology that's been shrinking ever since about the 1940s. And to see a new program come together and new people trained up and learning the skills and seeing what it's all about, that's the good stuff right there. That's being on the grow rather than on the shrink. And steam is a movement. Steam historic preservation is a movement in this country. It's a good story to tell. And I certainly love the fact that engine gets to do that sort of thing. And our friends in Folsom get to be able to do that as well.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the kind of work you expect the Chiggen to be doing out there in Folsom?
Well, so we're still working on what their exact operating plan is, but they're railroad right now, so they have an operation basically to the county line out of Folsom, and they're adding track, as quickly as they possibly can. One of the things that I liked about this organization as we started talking was nobody had ever told them you can't do that yet, because they just said, okay, well, we want to achieve this goal, so we're going to do what it takes, and then they just achieved the goal. And sometimes people find a problem for every solution. Sometimes people find a solution for every problem. These guys were can do, and that's what sort of put them on my radar. And we started talking about a home for the locomotive. They've always wanted a steam program. They've been positioning themselves for years to be ready for such a thing and grow their business and their sustainability plan. And things just sort of naturally fell together.
Yeah, one of the things that I found interesting when I heard that it was finally happening was I'd been in the process of making a video about the Placerville and Sacramento Valley Railroad since about 2 years, a little more than 2 years ago. And about a year and a half ago, when I was out there for a visit to catch some video that I needed for that project, one of the people there said, "Oh, well, we have some ideas about getting steam here." And I thought in the back of my mind, it might be a familiar 040 that I've seen before, just not, but people like to keep stuff under wraps, and I understand why they do that. But I decided at that point in time that I had to wait to finish the video until whatever steam it was came and showed up there. And I'm excited because it's like I said, it's one that I've seen before, and it gives me an excuse to talk to you about it. I think it's really cool.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm excited as well. It's an appropriate locomotive for their operation. It will be something that, as they continue to grow and add capacity, it's a locomotive that has additional capacity to be able to offer. So it's not like they're sized out to begin with. It's really a good choice. I mean, everybody loves giant locomotives, and hey, big engines are really cool. Don't get me wrong. I've had the honor to have been able to work on several of them. But the thing is when you're running a heritage railroad like these, you really want the locomotive that's appropriately sized to what you're doing. And the wonderful thing about the Chiggen is it is very appropriate for what they're doing and what their growth plan looks like as well. As we were rebuilding the locomotive in the first place, I always imagined that it could be the nucleus around which new steam programs were built. And that was always my intention. And believe it or not, I have email correspondence with Eric at PSVRR dating back to 2009, where we were talking about, hey, maybe SCPC2 could come and visit or operate or something. Wouldn't that be great? And I was certainly very, very interested in that at the time. And here we are 11 years later. Well, we made it happen. So again, this is the stuff that dreams are made out of in this industry, is to dream a big dream and then actually achieve it. And we're able to do that. That's such a blessing.
Yeah, one of the cool things, I've heard repeated a number of times from people who work on steam and do steam, most notably Mark out at Nevada Northern and Ely, said that you have to be able to dream big and have that can-do attitude. And I think what you've done with the Chiggen really exemplifies that very well. So,
well, thank you very much.
Yeah,
again, sometimes it's just bullheadedness, just getting stuff done. But hey, it's just one of those things that if you enjoy the work and you build a community of practitioners around the machine that enjoy the work as well, you're going to have a lot more friends and colleagues, and you're going to do some pretty amazing stuff. And that's really, really what drove the Chiggen. And I'm repeating the formula again with White Pass and Yukon 61 here in Antonito. Actually, I have a bunch of friends, and we're rebuilding a 55-ton narrow gauge 280 consolidation from 1900. So the magic is continuing. It was so much fun doing it the first time. How could you say no to doing it again?
Right.
So,
you have so much stuff that you do and so much stuff that goes on around your shop. And for being out in the middle of nowhere, as they say, I'd love to have you back on sometime to talk about some of those other projects. But sooner than that, I'd like to invite you maybe next month to have someone from the PSVRR and you talk about what the move of the Chiggen to the PSVRR means for everybody involved, because I think it's a really great story.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be more than happy to. And they're a great group of folks. And certainly, they worked hard to make this happen as well. I mean, certainly I was there for some technical support and provided some additional team members. But yeah, I mean, they really pulled together and made this all happen. And I can't say enough good things about how that all went.
That's excellent. Why don't we do that then? We'll do it off camera here to sort of arrange something for next month. I'll look forward to that. So, but thanks for taking the time to talk to me here today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. It was my pleasure, and I look forward to the next opportunity.
Okay, thanks. I'm really looking forward to talking to Stathi again next month with someone from the PSVRR to hear their perspectives on this move and what it means to everyone. That should be really great. I also talked to Stathi off camera about having him on the program in the future to talk about some of the other projects that he has going on at the Cumbres and Toltec shops, especially since he's the guy in charge of special projects there. I'd also like to thank TSG Train Crew member CJ Vargas for putting me back in touch with Stathi. Thanks, CJ, and thanks for the photos from the move. I had a chance to talk to my friend Chris Brimley over Skype a few weeks ago. I first met Chris in person at the N-Scale convention in Salt Lake City back in 2018. You might remember last year I released a layout tour of the Hudson Terminal. That's his N-Scale shelf layout. So Chris is a pretty hardcore modeler, and he also works at ExactRail. So let's go to that interview now. Okay, so I have Chris dialed up on Skype. Thank you for joining us, Chris, and how you doing tonight?
Doing great, thank you.
Good. Well, I've told people a little bit about you already in the podcast and how we met at the N-Scale convention. Why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself so that they realize who you are and what you do?
Sure, happy to. My name's Chris Brimley. I've been in the hobby since I was a 14-year-old boy. Before that, was involved in things like Hot Wheels and Lego and transitioned into trains. So I started in HO, moved into N-Scale, and been primarily in N-Scale for most of my life. However, I'm going to start dabbling in some other scales here soon. What most people kind of know modeling-wise of me, I have a small shelf layout at home. It's just a 1x7 foot layout it's called the Hudson Terminal. It's an N-Scale shelf switching layout that is based it's a fictional subsidiary of the New York Central in 1955 New York.
Right, and people ought to remember that because we did a layout tour of the Hudson Terminal last year. And
yes, you did.
Yeah, seeing it in person is even better than seeing it on the pictures.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So personally, that's what I do. Professionally, I work for ExactRail. I'm the vice president of product, and so I do all the product design work for little old ExactRail.
Yeah, right. And really, that's how we came to meet, because I came out to the N-Scale convention that was in Salt Lake City. That was in 2018, I believe, and that, I think, was the first time I met you. Was at the ExactRail table.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was at 2018. I remember that well. It was fun having the N-Scale convention here locally. It's always good to have a show that you don't have to travel to. That's too far away.
Right. I'm kind of curious about that too. So, does your job require you to travel all over the place for all the conventions and stuff normally when we're not stuck at home with viruses and such?
Yeah. I do. I generally do, I don't know, anywhere from 5 to 10 shows a year. And I've only this year had one, just the Springfield show in Massachusetts, and kind of missing shows right now. I've got nothing on the calendar till who knows when right now.
Yeah, one of the interesting things that happened, I guess it was earlier last month or earlier this month, the NMRA National was canceled because people were not sure if they could even go, because they didn't know if hotels were going to be open or if people would show up, or they didn't know if anything was going on. So they're just like, you know what, we better just cancel this and get as much of our deposits back as possible.
Yeah, that was canceled about the same time. The N-Scale convention in Nashville, Tennessee was canceled, which was coming up in June. And then another show that I had planned out, which was the Collinsville RPM meet just outside of St. Louis, was also canceled. So as of right now, I don't have anything scheduled until November until Train Fest.
And who even knows if that'll happen too, huh?
Yeah, I hope it doesn't get canceled, but we'll see what happens right now.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all kind of playing it by ear with this pandemic. So now I have a question for you, because a while back, it seemed like I remember reading something that you wanted to sell your Hudson Terminal, which really surprised me, especially after seeing it, seeing all the work and blood, sweat, and tears that went into making it so nice. What was going on there?
Yeah, that surprised a few people, and I went back on it. So what had happened? This was around, I think it was just as after Christmas when this happened. When I put the layout, or I said I was going to sell the layout, and after, I mean, the following year in 2019, we also had the national convention in Salt Lake. Also had the layout on the cover of Model Railroad Craftsman in May 2019. So I had a lot of things that were kind of a high that had happened. And I've been picking at the layout for a better part of 10 years. I mean, off and on, not straight. I mean, it's a small layout. But I dedicated myself towards it. And I'm a pretty focused modeler. I generally don't jump around on too many projects. I usually have one thing that I kind of work on, and I like to work on that. And all the research I'd put into it, I stuck with that. And suddenly the layout, it's not done, but it felt done. It looks done. And suddenly I felt like I have no direction personally as a modeler. And I just kind of really went into kind of a dark funk in the hobby, in modeling personally. ExactRail separate, I love my job, but sometimes when your hobby is also your work, the last thing you want to do when you come home from work is to do more train related items. You just sometimes just want to put that stuff away and then come in the next day and then focus on that. But at home, I want to do something else. Yeah. I've got other hobbies away from my hobby that I felt like doing instead. So I really was in kind of a place where I considered just getting out of the hobby personally entirely. So not only was I going to sell my layout, I was going to sell everything, like everything, my library of books, all my trains. I actually have a lot of HO equipment still, and I was going to get rid of that. Just dump it. But what really, a few things happened that stopped me pretty quick, because I posted that I was up for sale. And then I took it down, I think 2 or 3 days later. I didn't get any serious offers at all, so maybe that's kind of sad. But but it was good. So what had happened after, I talked to a few close friends that are local, that have also been modeling for a long time, and they've also built multiple layouts themselves, and they've told me this is common. This happens. You focus so heavily on something, and suddenly it's done, and you get into this funk, and you just kind of don't know what to do yet. And both of them told me, it was like, don't make any decisions right now with what to do with it. Just leave it be. Just walk away from it, even if it's for a year. Just step away from it right now. And then also the other thing that had happened at the same time, my oldest daughter found out I had it up for sale, and she got mad. She's 14 now, but for 10 years of her life, I mean, pretty much it's been there. And so she grew up alongside it. I've got photos of her when she was 4 years old, running a train on it when I first laid track on it, and she was mad. I mean, she really felt like I was selling a member of the family. You're
selling out, Dad.
Yeah, so I didn't realize it was so important to the rest of the family. Part of me kind of thought, it was like, it's just one of Dad's toys. Who cares? But no, it grew up with them.
Right.
And so it held kind of a special place. And so, I don't know, I guess she's earned it as something that she'll earn when I pass away. She gets the layout. And she can figure out what she wants to do with it. We'll see. Well, maybe, fortunately, it's small. Right. It's small. So it's easy to move.
Maybe she'll put it up for sale, in 100 years when that happens, and she won't get any offers either.
No, it'd be sad. Just take it out in the backyard and shoot it dead or something. I don't know.
Make a video of. Well, I'm not going to go down that. I was going to say make a video burning it, but that's very bad.
Yeah.
It's a sacrilege, man, talking about burning your model layout.
I'll bury it with me. It's small enough I could bury it with me almost. So.
Well, it's longer than you, so if you get to be skinny, they could bury you in it.
Wow. Yeah, I could do that.
Now,
just dig a slightly deeper hole and bury it beneath me, and then put the casket over the top of it.
Yeah. How did we get on this, Chris?
I don't know. This has really gone pretty morbid. So maybe we should move on.
Yeah, but we're both laughing, so it can't be too bad.
I know.
So what happened, though? So you decided, you got out of your funk and you decided not to sell it, obviously.
Yeah, well, I didn't fully get out of the funk. I mean, still a little bit in it. I mean, it's now 5 months later, and I haven't done any modeling at all. Personally, just been trying to focus on work as best I can right now with what's going on. It makes it a little difficult, but we've been getting through okay. But I just decided just to leave it alone and just see what happens. If the itch strikes again, then yeah, I would go down to visit it. I also did a little bit of fiddling and research and possibly creating a new layout. And I've thought about expanding on the Hudson Terminal. I've thought about jumping into a new scale. A close friend of mine's really been pushing hard for me. Actually, not just a personal friend. I actually have 4 or 5 friends that have been pushing really hard for me to go into HON3.
Oh, I probably know 2 of them.
Yeah, you probably know a few of them. So they've been really pushing hard with that, and I've actually really intrigued to do it. I don't feel like I'm going to immediately, but I've always, I didn't grow up, but I was born in Colorado, and so I've always had a soft spot for Colorado and always liked mining, and so I'll probably eventually do an HON3 Rio Grande Southern layout. I just see myself doing that at some point.
Oh, interesting.
Right now, I don't know.
Based on our conversations that we've had prior to now, I've always got the impression that you would look for something unusual, what I would think of as unusual to model. Like the Hudson Terminal was kind of an unusual thing. It's a fictional setting, right? But based on reality. It
is. It's based on prototype, but it's still, I guess some people call it proto-lancing, where it's a prototype layout, but it's a freelance. And I've always kind of felt if I'm going to do something, I really should, whatever I do, it needs to be a departure from what I do at ExactRail. And, but I still love a lot of the stuff we do at ExactRail. I love a lot of, I love that stuff, but for it to be something that I can detach myself away from work, it can still be model railroading related, but it needs to be something different. And so I shouldn't do something that's, some modern prototype layout right now. I've thought about doing something really crazy. I mean, HON3 narrow gauge to me feels like a departure from what we're doing. And so that's something different. I've thought about doing something as crazy as doing like a hyper realistic version of the island of Sodor from Thomas the Tank Engine. Right. Just something fun. I've thought about making my own thing up completely, something not necessarily like the Gory and Defeated, but just something that's just whatever comes out of my brain. Everything is completely fictional. The railroads are fictional. Everything's fictional. And I think that would be fun for a time, but I don't know if that would keep me entertained for too long. I think that would be a good departure or vacation or something away from what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, it seems like it would be something that you could use as a creative outlet away from work. But at some point, though, if you hit a block if you hit a creative block, as they call it, that could make it really hard too to enjoy that. So there's a lot of decisions that you have to come to, really, when you think about it.
Yeah.
So, but now, what did you do, though? So you were in this dark place, you talked to your friends, but you also did something else. Didn't you start exercising more and getting out and doing stuff like that?
Yeah, so that actually started a little bit before. That started, it was in October. And so there was a few things that happened to me in October. One, I had a friend who passed away unexpectedly of a heart attack. And about the same time, I started, I thought I was having a stroke and actually went to the hospital, went to emergency. I had a bunch of numbness going on my left side and both my arm and my leg. And it turned out my leg, there were two separate things. My leg is just sciatic nerve. Stupid thing, but it will always bug me for the rest of my life, I guess. And then my arm, a few years ago, I dislocated a rib and it hadn't fully set in and it was just pinching a nerve in my arm. And so it's nerve things in both things. And so, but it was enough that it kind of scared me. And then also my friend that unexpectedly passed away. And so I decided I've got to get back and I've got to do something. And a few years ago, I did lose a little bit of weight, but I put most of it back on really quickly. But I knew I needed to find something I love to do. And I've always wanted to hike. And so I just started hiking just in the foothills and the mountains just behind my house. So, I mean, you've been out to my house, my house is literally not even a quarter of a mile away from 11,000 foot mountains. And so it's easy to disappear, and there's lots of trails just right up from where I live. And so I hit those almost daily. And right now I'm doing anywhere. Yesterday I hiked about 6 miles.
Wow.
Did about almost 2,000 vertical feet. So it was a climb, but a lot of fun. So yeah.
That's a serious hike.
Yeah, it was a serious hike. It was rough. I picked up a backpack just last week, and so kind of breaking that in, getting used to having it. I've been having a lot of fun. So far, I'm about 50 pounds down from where I was in October.
Wow.
So I'm hoping
that's really great.
Thank you. So I'm kind of hoping, by this next October, I'm hoping to be another 50 down. So in a year, if I could be 100 down, that would be amazing. Well,
if I see you out here at the Santa Clara National Convention next year, I might not recognize you.
No, you might not even be able to see me.
You turn sideways, you disappear altogether, huh?
Just look for the beard, and that's all you'll be able to see.
I'll look for the guy that looks kind of like Gandalf, but not really.
Yeah.
You mentioned to me that you were working on some kind of a project with your Hudson Terminal to be able to run a different era equipment or something to that effect. I didn't remember exactly how that went.
So this was always a kind of a plan that I've had for the past few years. And so every now and again I would acquire a little bit of equipment, but I've always wanted to do, so this actually happened because of working at ExactRail. Because of working at ExactRail, we do a lot of rolling stock that's from the 70s. Mm-hmm. And I've just fallen in love with it. Where the layout was always 1955, I always just really wanted to do something 70s related. And so I started thinking, and like I could, since the layout's this small, I could easily do dual era on the layout where I could change everything over to be 1975. And the reason I settled on 1975 was because once Conrail took over after the Penn Central failure in 76, Conrail closed all of the switching terminals that were in the New York area, or closed most of them that they had a hand in. Mm-hmm. And so they all disappeared. And even by 75, most of them were in pretty poor shape anyway. Most of the traffic that was going into these little terminals was trucked in and out anyway. And so I started acquiring a few pieces of rolling stock to eventually be able to do 75 operations on there. And so just in the last week, I decided, let's see how much I've got. So I put all the 75 equipment out on the layout, put everything that's 55, including the vehicles, away. And right now I'm just trying to figure out, how do I want to do this? Do I have enough equipment? And there's some pieces I've got enough. There's a few that I still need to acquire, a few more. I need more 70s era vehicles, which there isn't that many in N-scale, unfortunately. And there's a few. There's enough. I've got a great little model of Herbie from Oxford Diecast. I'm quite proud to have that because I grew up watching Herbie.
I remember Herbie the Love Bug, yeah.
Yeah. I should have him driving around in some of the cornices of the buildings or something like that. But anyway, and so doing this has kind of got me excited with the layout again.
Uh-huh.
And there's a few signs on the buildings I want to change over. There's a little Nabisco one that I want to take off, and unfortunately I glued it to the building, and so I need to try to figure out how to remove it so I can take it off and put a 70s era billboard in the place of it. And what I'll probably do is do a magnet on the building so I could swap them back and forth and then go back to 55 if I wanted to.
Oh, that's cool. So the idea is to dual it, though, right? Like, you're not going to just go 70s. You're going to still have your 50s stuff for whenever you want to run that, too.
Yeah.
Quick question. How does that change the power? Because you had that one little, what was it, an Alco switcher? I don't even remember, but it was a little tiny switcher. You going to use the same power, or are you going to use a different locomotive?
I have a different locomotive.
Oh,
Fortunately, since the layout's so small, only one locomotive on the layout, and so buying another locomotive wasn't too big of a deal. And so for the 1955, I use a New York Central Baldwin VO1000.
Okay, it was a Baldwin, okay.
Yeah, and then for 75, I have a Penn Central Alco S2.
Okay, cool.
So they look almost identical. I mean, they're very, very similar to each other.
Yeah, I'll have to check in on the Facebook page. I should mention that you have a Facebook page for the Hudson Terminal, right?
I do, and I haven't updated it. The last thing I posted was back in December when I said, I'm going to sell a layout. And then I took it down, and I haven't posted anything since. So I'm sure there's a few people that think I either sold it or I died or something. I don't know, but I need to post something on there here soon.
Well, maybe this will be the impetus for you to post something to the Hudson Terminal Facebook page, because people who follow it might want to know what your plans are. I mean,
yeah, I need to, and so I'm going to, once I start. I haven't done any model building yet. Right now, it's just I've got a lot of cars that I've got to weather. I need to figure out what I want to do for the billboard. I haven't decided that yet, and that's actually what's been on my mind a lot lately. Like, what do I want to advertise on the layout? Like, I thought about doing like the Broadway musical of The Wiz, something. I don't know what I want to look like. The layout's sponsored by 1975. I have no idea, but
I'm sure
something weird.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll come up with something.
I'm working on it. I'm looking for something. I want a billboard that was in the area in 75, so I'm trying to find something.
Yeah. Well, I'll be interested to find out. But, knowing that you haven't updated the Facebook page makes me feel a little bit better, because I haven't looked at it in a while either.
Yeah. That's fine. Wait, you haven't? You should be on there daily.
I know. See what I mean? There's no guilt trips being pushed here, are there?
No, none at all.
Yeah, of course not. Of course not. But by the same token, I should tell you that you have plenty of time to think about that billboard while you're hiking.
I do, yeah, I know. I should. Maybe lightning will strike me one day, and I'm like, I've got it. It's going to be Burger King.
That would be really inspirational. Burger King,
wouldn't it?
Yeah, you're my new hero today now, Chris. Well, I'm kind of curious, and if you're able to share anything, because I know that the viewers of the channel love to hear about manufacturer stuff. So is there anything going on from ExactRail that that's coming up that you can talk about?
No, I'm not going to talk about that. Nothing. No, we have lots coming.
What's the stuff that you can talk about that's coming up?
We do actually have quite a bit coming from ExactRail here pretty soon. So in January at the Springfield show, we announced a new production of the Conrail Coil Shield and the Norfolk Southern Protector coil cars.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, and a lot of people are super excited. The first run did exceptionally well, and we're really excited to have this one come. There's some new paint schemes, some repaint, some patched out versions that we have coming, and so I'm very excited to see these come. Creating the artwork for them was a lot of fun, and that's one of my favorite aspects of my job is creating the artwork on these cars. Ahead of them, there's actually two productions or two releases, I should say, that are ahead of those cars, and those are at this point on the water right now, and we should be releasing the first of those two this month. and then we'll probably release the next one the following month, and then the coil shield and protector will be following the following. So it should be, as long as everything stays on schedule right now, the coil shield and protector should be hitting in August, which is months later than we had originally expected. But as I'm sure everybody in the world knows, there was a little virus that started in China, and it kind of shut the country down at CNY, which was about the same time as the Springfield show. And the factory we use was shut down for 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So it's just caused a lot of production delays, unfortunately. Even before then, these productions were a little bit delayed, which really is unfortunate. But the factory is starting to really pick up and catch up, which is great for us.
Well, I'll be looking forward to those new releases. I'm kind of curious what they are now. Now, I'm not going to ask you to tell us what they are because I know you're not supposed to, but I'm looking forward to it.
They're coming. I'm very excited for them. Also, with these, I'm not sure which month we'll release them, but we also have finally a restock of our wheels and trucks. I know we've had a lot of people asking about those. Those have really been high in demand. They're coming. They should be here in either July or August.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we'll have a full restock of wheels and trucks, which would be fantastic to have finally. It's been far too long being out of stock for those.
I know that I looked for the N scale wheels at some point, and I think one of them was out of stock, or they were both out of stock. And I think I got the last package of wheels, of N scale wheels.
Oh, did you?
I think I did when I came back there last time. So,
well, good.
Yeah,
more coming. This is good because with me switching over to 75, I need more N-scale wheels myself in metal. So here just in time.
Yeah, it's ironic. I've talked to other people who do similar jobs to what you do, and it's always kind of cool to think that you're in a position to create the things that you would need if you weren't in the. You know what I mean? Like you can make the stuff that you need. Mm-hmm. And there happens to be a market for it too, which is cool.
Yeah. So it's fun.
Okay, well, sounds great. I'm really looking forward to seeing what these new releases are, and hopefully we'll be able to show them here on the channel. So.
Yeah, no, we'll send you samples, John. Absolutely.
Cool.
It's been a pleasure being here. Just hanging in here.
Thanks much for taking the time out to talk to us. Really appreciate that, and hopefully we'll come back and talk to you about I have some ideas for shows in the future that I'd like to talk to you about off air. So we'll go now. So thanks, Chris, for taking the time. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you.
And now back to me in the studio. It sounds to me like Chris has some pretty cool plans for the Hudson Terminal. I'm also curious to find out what ExactRail is coming out with next. I remember when we spoke at the National Train Show last year in July, they had a lot of new releases in the pipeline, so I'll be looking out for those and looking forward to them as well. On the 17th, we held our third monthly TSG Live Shelter-in-Place webcast. In this episode, I showed the viewers my HO scale collection, including all the trains I got in the 70s when I was a kid. The rest of the collection consisted of models that I've been collecting over the past 3 years or so. I originally wanted to split this video up into 2 parts, but we were on a roll, so we just kept going. For over 2.5 hours, that is. I was pretty hoarse by the time it was done. If you've been watching the channel here for long, you know that I've been wanting to try my hand at weathering for quite a while, like at least a year or 2. Well, I got some weathering powders from my friend Pat early last month. And don't worry, we wore our masks, to make sure that no one got sick. And I think we both agreed that we look better that way too. Anyway, the weathering powders were the last thing I needed in order to start weathering models. And so far, I've weathered 3 pieces of rolling stock, and I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. These are cheap cars that I kept specifically for practicing weathering, and I'm counting on donating these to the N-scale layout at the SBHRS once it's open again. They should make a nice addition to what's already there, and I think it's better, to give them a nice home than to just throw them away or leave them here unused. I posted photos of these models to the community tab here on YouTube, and I posted even more photos to the Facebook page. So if you're on Facebook, you check those out if you would like to see them. I think they turned out okay overall. And well, let me just put it this way. It could have been a lot worse, right? The most important thing is that I finally did it. And so now I have the confidence to do more. And at some point, when I'm confident enough, I'll weather one of my better models. I might even try to weather something according to a reference photo of the real prototype someday. But right now, for me, it's just about understanding how the different materials I'm using interact with the models. It's important to know that before you can get really advanced in this stuff. So now for this month's YouTube program schedule. On Friday, June 12th, it's a product spotlight. On Saturday, June 13th, it's Model Trains Galore Part 2. On the 20th, Chasing Trains, Steam Freights in Niles Canyon. This episode was recorded in Niles Canyon a few months ago when the Niles Canyon Railway was putting on a special charter in the canyon. We couldn't afford to ride, but we knew where we could get some publicly accessible shots. On Sunday the 21st at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, we're going live once again with our special Shelter-in-Place webcast. On this episode, I'm going to share my N-scale collection with you, including all the models I've been weathering up to that point. I didn't count the number of models I have, but I think the N-scale collection might be bigger than the HO scale collection that we looked at last month. So that should be an adventure. Then on the 27th, it's the return of Model Railroading with Jack Burgess. In this episode, Jack takes us around the lower level of his world-famous Yosemite Valley Railroad layout and talks about details he added from reference photos. So before I go, I want to invite you to become a member of the TSG Train Crew on Patreon. If you can help out with $2 a month or more, head over to patreon.com/TSG Multimedia. As part of the Train Crew, you can feel really great about helping me get the content that you enjoy onto the channel for the world to see, and you also get access to behind-the-scenes stuff, private previews, and of course, now we also do our private hangouts. And for any interested companies out there, please contact me at podcast@tsgmultimedia.com if you'd like to get your company name in front of the best audience on YouTube. As always, I thank you for your continued support, and I'll see you next time.